Welcome back. You're watching Morning Express. We are reviewing the papers. The biggest stories this morning have to do with politics, so women in power, women influencing power. We also have another story here about Raila's party's about turn on the flag bearer. The IMF is still making headlines, but a very tragic story has been making the rounds on social media and, of course, on mainstream media, and has to do with the shocking killings of a GSU officer and the wife. This did not happen by some assailant who came to their home. It was the husband who turned his gun on his wife, shot her 3 times, and then turned it on himself and, of course, killed himself. And now it is a murder-suicide situation, pointing to the pressures of life and how people are handling some of these situations as they go about with their business. With me in studio is Kariuki Ngunjiri, who's a political analyst. We also have Alenga Torostad, who is a communication strategist. And joining us via Zoom is Dr. Pamela Odhiambo, woman representative, Migori County. Welcome to the show, Dr. Pamela. I'd love to continue on with your opinion on this very, very tragic story.
Thank you very much, and good morning, Kenya. I think the story we are looking at today is really, and unfortunately, it is not just that isolated story. I think about 2 days or so ago, there was this young man who beheaded the grandparent. And I think if we went around the country, we will meet quite a number of such cases. We've been treated to very shocking news every morning where family members, a husband kills himself, kills the wife and the children, or kills the spouse, like what we are seeing here. And I think I don't want just to blame this on the pressures of life. Mm-hmm. I think going back into history, it happened yesterday that I was talking about this with a couple of young men and ladies who visited with me in the evening. I don't know why they were asking me about handling relationships. And we talked a lot, and I was telling them, remembering back, like before me as a young girl, or even during my time, there was this concept that relationships, especially those that were ending up with marriages, would be a communal thing. It was not individual affair or just the two people who are involved. So one of the areas where I can lay my finger on and say it's not happening well is even the way our young people start off their relationships and the way they carry themselves, and even up to that marriage. It is more of their affair. A young man goes around, like now in this case, the army man, the GSU man, they would go to those barracks, and wherever he is walking, get some girl, and they start making their advances and they make their deal. And maybe the rest of the community, all they get to know, oh, so-and-so is settled down with some girl, or that some girl is settled down with some man. Nobody knows about this person. Even themselves, they don't get proper time and methods of getting to know deeply the background of this person, and even the way they carry themselves and the way they would react to various situations, and whether they have any underlying mental or emotional conditions that need to be dealt with properly. Nobody knows. And so in that infatuation, they go into marriages, and they are so fidgety, they are so, they are so nagging. Any small thing brings a row. And I think this isolation, according to me, should be blamed for so many issues that happen in our families. Right. The young people have not been able to develop tenacity, and even the virtues like tolerance and patience with one another, and even proper communication skills, problem-solving skills, negotiation, that give and take kind of situation is no longer in our children. And it is something that ends up with psychological breakdown when there is a problem or an issue. Then somebody thinks, oh, this is too big, I can't face this. The best I can do is to kill. And I think this is what we need to look at as a society. I think I'm on record, Madam, saying that Kenyans need to look back at the societal values that we took off very quickly from, and we thought they are primitive ways of living. But according to me, I am a Christian, a professed one. But I think the way our forefathers and our older generation handled, especially family issues, were excellent. You know, the people were there for you. As a young couple, as a young woman who was brought into a new community, the women were there for you to uphold you. Even your own very mother-in-law was there to coach you and train you into being a woman.
Right.
And you see, with that shared problem, my problem in the house or between me and my husband was not just mine. There were aunties there to share with, and they would counsel and they would encourage you. And before long, you realize time is going and you grew into another elderly mother in the society.
Right,
but
right.
Today, with this isolation, our young people do not know how to solve these problems on their own, and they end up taking away their lives. A situation which I really pity. But even as I wind up on this, allow me to encourage the young people out there. When you are faced with a situation, please kindly find it worthy to share it with somebody whom you can trust, somebody who can feel with you and walk with you through this difficulty. It is possible. Other people have gone through it. You can also go through it. So don't kill. Don't take away other people's lives. And look, we run to court. We say we are looking for justice. And even our court system, the way these cases go round, and if they happen to have money, they will be bailed out. And you know, by the end of the day, more young people feel like, even if I feel somebody is infringing on my rights, there is not even a need to take them to court, because the court will not administer a solution within a reasonable, accepted time that makes everybody feels justified. And I think these are small issues that collected together with those pressures of life, the economic situation, the suspicious nature of our people. We no longer know how to trust anyone,
Right.
and including our own husbands and wives. So there is a lot. My thinking is we need to relook at our value systems and reteach our young people that money is not all, that living in Nairobi with your small family is not all. You need everybody around you. You need your pastors, you need your elders, you need your colleagues who can guide you and walk with you and support you emotionally, psychologically, and even materially if there be need.
Okay, thank you very much, Dr. Pamela. Now let's shift gears to politics. And there's a story here on the main political story on the front page of the Standard newspaper, as well as on page 8 of the paper. New twist on ODM's search for flag bearer. We are told Raila's party is about turn on flag bearer. ODM now calls for National Executive Committee meeting and hints at possibility of extending application period for presidential aspirants. What do you make of this development as far as the ODM party is concerned, Mr. Ngunjiri?
You see, I was here last week and the discussion was more or less the same. Whether or not Raila Odinga is going to run in the 2022 elections.
After that April Fool's...
I'm still convinced that this is the case.
Yes.
And while I don't 100% trust the construct of internal democracy with ODM, I think this is a step that encourages even future discourse on how political parties should exercise their internal values of democratic practice.
Yes.
I also believe that for political parties, and the ones that are emerging now, we have UDA, and like I said last time, I want to live to see a situation whereby we will get up to a certain point when we cannot guess who will be the potential candidate of a certain political party. And in such a setting, we are obviously guaranteed of internal competition of ideas, and people will always get an opportunity to choose between what works for them. I have also passionately talked about what has happened in political parties, in the sense that because parties are in coalition agreements, then they will tend to withdraw what is called competitive politics. In the construct of democracy, ever since it started, in a place called Neapolis in Greece, it is not intended that political parties will withdraw from competition, and always providing their people with alternatives to choose between different strategic policy standpoints, of which they can always get an opportunity to exercise their power to vote and vote that which they feel works better than the other. So for this discourse, Raila's party would be taking us into those kind of circles, because I believe that there was, and you saw already, they already spilled the beans.
Yeah.
Mr. Oparanya the other day told us that we will not be going to, or rather it is not tenable that we hold a referendum before 2022. The following day, the SG, that is Sifuna, also told us the same thing. So I see this as some of the testing, what we always call throwing the spanner into the works.
Yes.
So that you can test the reaction of people and see whether there will be a backlash, and see how people like, for example, Amason Kingi, Ali Hassan Joho, and the people in Western Kenya will behave. But the card is the same, that is according to me, and Raila is going to be the ticket.
Okay. And here we are in the article, it says, Junet said, that is Honorable Junet, said that the party organ has the powers to extend the application deadline. Of course, only Governor Wycliffe Oparanya as well as Hassan Joho had applied by the March 31st deadline. He further says the issue has caused a very big confusion within the party. The matter will be presented before the NEC for discussion and review. The organ will give its final and conclusive say on that. What do you make of this, Mr. Elenga? Is this as confusing as the article is pointing out?
I think while we're discussing this, we need to pay cognizance to the fact that ODM is one of the parties that have been able to stand for a considerable period of time, comparing how parties come and go in this country.
Yes.
So we can actually say they have tried to have proper structures, and also internally they have a kind of organization that has sustained them for that long period of time. It's not very easy in this country, we know that. But again, if you look at the candidature, the selection of the candidate for presidency within the ODM party, it's not abnormal, or it's not out of the blues if the party settles for Honorable Raila Odinga, because even in a football club, you will advance forward the best player if you have. So if you look at ODM as it is right now, the only person that has a huge political and social capital within the ranks of the ODM party is Raila Amolo Odinga. So why would you sacrifice such a player when you're going to a contest that is really tough, with preparations of other parties like Honorable the Deputy President William Ruto, who is really a strong candidate in the next election. So you need to have the best player forward. I remember in the World Cup of 1994, Cameroon forward played Roger Miller, who was a very old player at the time, and he scored the only goal against Russia. And in the same game, there was the youngest player was Rigobert Song at 17 years, who became the first youngest player to get a red card. So when you're fielding this, you need to consider who has the experience and who has the clout.
Okay, I'd like to bring Dr. Pamela in on this, because she is, within the party and might be better informed on what this is all about. We're told about the confusing signs in the Standard. They say the party NEB yesterday held a crisis meeting amid the raging confusion over party leader Raila Odinga's presidential bid and the deafening silence from the party leadership following SG Edwin Sifuna's statement last week. It also says another source of confusion is the party announced that Raila Odinga had not applied to fly the party ticket in the 2022 presidential contest by the set deadline. And of course, this is something that is causing a lot of public curiosity. Why is this happening right now? Why isn't it clear whether or not Raila Odinga shall be doing the needful?
Sometimes I think Kenyans, we read too much and we become too anxious over small things. Like this case of the party or the search for the presidential candidate, as you put it, as in the ODM team, I personally don't think I'm that worried because let's speak it from Raila Amolo Odinga's perspective. From the very long time that I can remember, especially when the BBI debate and the process has been going on and all these things, I know Raila Amolo Odinga himself as individual and also even as our party leader, he has always advised that everything else was to give this BBI a priority because according to the BBI, you know, there are quite a lot of reforms that are supposed to be at the top leadership should the BBI finally go through. And so, to me, I must say, at a personal level, I was even shocked when our NEB woke up and said that they are inviting for applications for presidential candidates.
Right.
And I thought it was a bit too early. I thought it was a bit too premature. Why? Because look at even all the other parties. Much as people are walking around and everybody is saying they would be in the ballot, there is William Ruto, there is Kalonzo Musyoka, there is Mudavadi, and all those other party leaders. They have been talking about them being the presidential candidates of whichever outfits they belong to. And with that, there has been a lot of talk between individuals with their outfits and the alliances that we are seeing and all that. So from where I sit, I think I thought the idea that our party leader has always said whatever he wants to do in 2022 would come after the BBI is ended. To me, I thought that was sufficient. So when the applications did not come in, and the NEB or the NEC has got the power to actually extend those times, I thought it was okay. And even as we sit here today, the party leader said clearly that he is only saying what he wants to do or whether he's becoming a president or not after the BBI is done. And I think even as a party member, this BBI and the whole process and what we expect out of it, I think it is sufficient to put quite a number of things to hold. There are things that can go on the way we do things every day, like our party recruitments, registration, and all that. We can put our house in order, but being such a major stakeholder in the BBI process, I think the issue of the presidential candidate, because I'm not saying this is what my party is thinking. This is my personal thought, please. And if anybody has to report it, let it be reported like that. With the BBI, with Uhuru Kenyatta and Raila and all that, you know, after the whole thing is passed, the prophecy I see is that every other people, including those who are not very keen or close to what BBI is all about, people will be forced to rearrange themselves and even redecide what seats they want to go for and how. And I think that's what I foresee. So to me, I think the wisdom that is in my party leader, that we wait until this BBI thing is ended. To me, Kenyans should be sufficient and we should rest our case, because to be honest, none of the other parties has actually finally declared their presidential candidate. Why are we in a hurry to have the ODM presidential candidate?
But
I don't see.
Dr. Pamela, you can appreciate the need by the public to know, because Raila Odinga is one of the key people that you would expect to have come out, and you would appreciate that people actually, his running or not actually would stir the politics of the country in one way or the other. So I do believe that curiosity is justified.
I really appreciate that.
Yes.
I really appreciate that, because Raila Odinga's not being in the ballot box or being in the ballot box will change quite a number of things. But he has spoken, and the party has spoken, that we are waiting until after the BBI referendum or whenever we stop it. Then that should be enough. Why would people continue to be anxious about this?
No.
I don't understand that bit.
Okay,
because I think, like I've just said, the truth is, even to me, Raila is kind of the maker of politics in Kenya. Anytime Raila is quiet, then there are very weird rumors in this country.
Okay.
And so what he will do in 2022 really matters to everybody, including myself.
Indeed.
But my peace comes from the fact that he has said, and I think that is what we are waiting for, that he will declare, or the party will declare, who will be their presidential candidate after the BBI. And nothing has spoiled, because whoever had applied, their application is still valid. Those who had not applied, what I think they should also be happy is that, sincerely, Raila Amolo Odinga doesn't want to lock anybody out. Whoever has got an ambition to apply for that seat should apply. And even after that referendum, they are still free to apply. So I think I'm just pleading with Kenyans that, yes, some political statements or things are sweet to talk and be anxious about. But I think our anxiety should rest now that we know Raila Amolo Odinga will say what he's doing with himself as at 2022 after the BBI referendum. All
right, Mr. Ngunjiri, you wanted to weigh in on it as well.
Yes, and it is good because Honorable Pamela is here. You see, these are some of the strategic blunders that we always talk about. And I always say that Raila Odinga, since 2018, has opted to sleep throughout the most important phase of this political process. You see, to win an election, and I know he knows this because he's an experienced politician in Kenya, you need what is called a grassroots organizational infrastructure that deems you as a popular candidate as opposed to being famous. William Ruto has been able to do that. And I don't know how, for example, Raila Odinga will be able to reconstruct himself by over-relying on the handshake to, for example, deliver what is called, or what we can term as a through pass, or an opportunity to give him a platform to reorganize his 2022 strategy. So I think, because Honorable Pamela is here, and I know they always discuss that, I'm not a member of ODM, but I have seen a very strategic blunder from them, and for them to revert back and come back to, for example, going to a village somewhere in Kieni, going to a village somewhere in Machakos, interacting with the residents, getting what I have called a grassroots organizational infrastructure, a priest who can be able to deliver a sermon and ask people to go and vote. People who deem you as popular, not famous. There's a difference between being popular, which means being liked by people, and famous. Popularity could come from several things. One, you could have been a man of the people, as in you are always interacting with the people, they have always been seeing you, and they own you, and they are entitled to you. But then there is this thing of being famous. You know, people are excited about you, and that is what we call not having a solid political base. So this is the time that anybody who is serious about 2022 campaigns could be moving around. And you know, now the BBI has been halted for some time because of COVID. And I think by the time we are coming back, we shall be in August. You will hear in those villages, go to somewhere in Western, and when you ask a question about Raila Odinga, people will tell you, we have not seen him for this time and this time and this time. They will alternatively tell you, we have seen William Ruto here, we have seen the others here. So it's not like you will always be at the top there and expect that this political capital, which will always be redefined, resourced, and rejuvenated from time to time, depending on the interactions and the basic ideas and the basic activities that you have in certain constituencies, which is the most important thing at this time.
Okay. If you want to learn more, if you want to react, Dr. Pamela?
Please allow me to react to something small that my colleague has just said.
Go ahead.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear much of what he said. There is some noise on the background from his end. But I think the issue of constructing Raila at the grassroots, I think it is something that should not worry my speaker on the other side. Because if there is anybody who has got serious grassroots structure and touch in this country, it is Raila Amolo Odinga and this ODM. This ODM has got structures up to the polling stations in this country. And I am shocked that my colleague is alleging that somebody in the rural is saying they have not seen Raila Odinga for this time. And yet, we are aware that a few weeks ago, before Raila Amolo Odinga became ill with the corona that was declared to us, he was all over this country. He was in Western, he was in Taita Taveta, he went to Turkana. Raila has been all over this place. And so trying to come up with a narrative that Raila has been sleeping and people do not know that Raila is still existing in the political landscape. No, I think that one I want to correct my friend. Okay. And I want to remind the nation that before Raila went down with the corona, he was all over this place, and even during the BBI. I think Raila went to every and each county, just like every other person has been going. So I want to tell you that when you are talking of reconstructing Raila politically and for the presidential candidates, you are forgetting that we, his lieutenants, are there on the ground, and on a daily basis we are reminding people that Raila is still around, and you can't imagine that about Raila in Kenya as we stand here today. Even this whole thing of BBI and the COVID is actually rotating around Raila. So I think that is a narrative that I don't want to accept.
I think you understood me. What I meant is Raila is famous and not popular at the moment, and then there is what you are advocating for. You are advocating for political reforms.
We have run out of time.
What is important now is economic reforms.
Mr. Ngundiri, Dr. Kamela,
there is no study that you have done. There is no study that you have done. If you asked one person on the ground and said, "I've not seen Raila," that does not amount to popularity.
Now, can you?
I don't want Kenyans to buy that.
Can you compare Raila Odinga, who is advocating for political reforms, and William Ruto, who is advocating for economic reforms, which is actually the heart of the common Kenyan at the grassroots?
Sorry, can I get the question again?
I'm asking, can you compare Raila Odinga, who is advocating for political reforms, which Kenyans do not need, to William Ruto, who is advocating for economic emancipation?
Which economic reforms is William Ruto advocating for? Wheelbarrows. Is that an economic reform? For those young people who are given those wheelbarrows, can you tell me today how those wheelbarrows have impacted on them economically? I think you people, let us be sincere. Sometimes I've listened to William Ruto all this time with you. I've not seen any serious economic journey that William Ruto wants to take with Kenyans. There are some things that we cannot construe for economic reforms. Economic reforms in the hands of William Ruto, who has been vice president for the last 10 years, and Kenyan's economy has crumbled in his hands with serious scandals of corruption and money getting lost, and he cannot explain to us where these monies have gone together with... I think what we are saying today, the question we were addressing is ODM in search of the presidential candidate.
Yeah.
No party has actually declared their presidential candidate. So there is no really need for us to belabor over this. The economic reforms that you are talking about, if you listen to Raila Amolo Odinga right from the beginning of his politics and even disagreements with the former president and all that, his has been this constant call of building a Kenya that can be economically stable. And to tell me today that Raila is advocating for political reform only, and Ruto is advocating for economic reform, I don't understand much as I have a PhD in strategic management and the issue of finances. I don't understand how wheelbarrows can transform this country into an economic giant. I'm sorry for this, but I think let us face the truth. All these people, even Ruto, the hustler thing is a political issue. It is not an economic issue.
Mheshimiwa, the problem with you, ODM, is that you don't take criticism, and you are in a still pocket. You listen to your own echoes and voices and think that they constitute majority of the opinion of Kenyans.
Dr.
No.
Yes, Dr. Pamela, I'd like you to react to that briefly, then we can conclude this conversation.
Sorry?
Just react to that briefly before we conclude the conversation, if you would like to.
The conversation about this?
No, I'm saying he has pointed to ODM as not being receptive to criticism, so I would like you to react to that briefly. Yes.
ODM is the most democratic. How does ODM not accept criticism? The issue is, we have said that Raila and his presidential candidature will be declared after the referendum. And I've just said that even me as an ODM member, I thought that call for the presidential candidature application to me was premature. And so which criticism don't we accept?
Okay.
And because somebody has noted that what they did was wrong. And that's why we are saying the NEC and the NEB are working to give us the next way forward. I think that's what the leaders have said in the papers. Yes. So if somebody wants to say, yes, what ODM has done to cause that confusion is wrong, I don't think we are militating against it. But you see, the correction has been done. The clarity has been given. So why should we continue belaboring over that?
Okay. Dr. Pamela Odhiambo is a woman representative for Migori County. Thank you so much for being a part of this discussion. Kariuki Ngunjiri is a political analyst, as well as Alenga Torosted, a communication strategist, right here in studio with me. Thank you so much. That has been Press Review. Coming up, we discuss the youth in this country. We are focusing on mental health, our emotional, psychological, and social well-being. It is an area that has been overlooked for long. Dr. Susan Gitau, a psychologist, Jen Gasheru, counselor, trainer, and facilitator, as well as Onyango Otieno, who is a mental health advocate, will help us dissect this particular issue with Jesse Rogers. Do stay tuned to Morning Express.